Hi, fifth level. Welcome to our first online lesson. Before we get started with our lesson, I hope that you and your family are doing well and you're not missing school too much. Even though your teachers would love to be teaching you in person, this is our new reality for right now. So we are going to get busy with continuing our education. So, as we're watching this video, you are going to be responsible for watching, taking notes in your math composition notebook. If you took it home, hopefully you did take it home and you have it available to add to your notes. If not, no big deal. Use a notebook from home, use scrap paper, loose leaf, something that you can keep together and organized, and start building your math notebook there at home. I will apologize if I look a little sleepy. It is currently past midnight and it's taken over 4 hours to make fourth level's video, which I just finished and uploaded. Fifth level, yours will not take 5 hours. I have found some shortcuts and we'll get through this pretty quickly. So let me explain what we're going to do. Both Karner Blue and Monarch are going to be working on the same lessons. For some of you, it's going to be a review because some of you have just done this. However, we are working towards a common destination which neither classroom has had, but needs these skills to be able to successfully do it properly. So in order to advance, we have to take a few steps backwards and make sure that we are all on the same page moving forward. So what we're going to talk about first, so that we can continue, is place value. I have selected a large number and have written this number using our Montessori color values. We have whole numbers, counting numbers, and decimal numbers. Now, the whole thing with place value starts with the units. Remember, units are represented as green. After units, or ones, we have the tens. But one less than that into the decimal is the tenths. Tens, tenths. Red hundreds, red hundredths. Green thousands, green thousandths. Blue 10,000s, blue 10,000ths. 100,000s, 100,000ths. Millions, millionths. Sometimes it's easy to think that the first digit past the decimal is the oneths. I've never heard of a oneths, except once upon a time. No, that doesn't work. So keep in mind, it all starts with the unit. And wherever direction you go from the unit, 10,000s, 10,000ths. That is what is important to keep in mind as far as place value goes. So this one, as it's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths, this number would be read as 7,654,321 and 234,567 millionths. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the next part. As place value was review, this is review also. In our base 10 system, we have 10 symbols that are used in different combinations to make our numbers. The symbols that we have are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Those are our 10 symbols. A 10 is reusing the symbol for 1 and the symbol for 0. So these are our 10 symbols. Well, it's kind of important to use this way of thinking to figure out where is the middle of our numbers here. Well, if we get rid of the two end ones, and the two end ones, and the new two end ones, and here we find that the middle is actually right here, between the 4 and the 5. And knowing that the middle is between 4 and the 5 puts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers this side of the line and 5 numbers this side of the line. This is also important to know when rounding. We're going to take a number like 346. 3 is in the hundreds place, the 4 is in the tens place, and the 6 is in the units place. Now I need some sort of rounding instructions. My rounding instructions is going to tell me to round to the nearest tens. Tens. So my 4 is in the tens spot. Since I am rounding to the nearest tens, I am going to underline the number that the spot that I am rounding to. I'm going to take a look at the number to the right of it, and I'm going to circle it. To the right of the 4 is the 6. 6 has all the power. 6 will tell that 4 what to do. Well, in order to know what the 6 is going to say, we take a look at our rounding up and rounding down chart. If our numbers are divided in half, 0 through 4 says to round down, 5 through 9 says to round up. We're looking at 6. Find 6 on the chart. 6 is on the round up side, so the instructions are the place value number increases by 1. That means that this 4 increases by 1. It becomes a 5. The 3 remains the same. And once the 6 has done its job, it zaps itself out and becomes a 0. So, rounded to the nearest tens, 346 becomes 350. So what does that actually mean? Well, if I count by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, all the way up 300, 310, 320, 330, 340, 350. At 340, I am 6 away from that tens of 340. But I'm only 4 away to 350. So I am closer to 350 than I am 340. 346, because this is divided in half, is on the round up side. It's closer to the next number than it is the previous number. So rounded to the nearest tens, 346 becomes 350. Our next number, 4,523. The instructions are round to the nearest hundreds. If I take a look, which number is in our hundreds spot? The 5. But the digit that has all the power, all the control over the 5 is the 1 to the right. It controls the 5. Now, that 2 is going to tell the 5 what to do. When I want to know what the 2 is going to say, I consult the chart. I come down, take a look at this. I find that 2 is on the round down side. The 2 is going to tell the 5 the place value number stays the same. Stays the same. The same. Now, what's important about that, and the reason that I'm emphasizing it, is because sometimes it's tricky. And one of the biggest mistakes that students make is because it rounds down, they make the 5 become a 4. But the 2 isn't telling the 5 to become a 4. It's telling the 5 to stay the same. Rounding down means the place value number stays the same. So, in this, my 5 remains the same. That remains the same. Once the 2 does what it needs to do, it zaps itself out, becomes a 0, and everything else after it becomes a 0 too. So, if I round to the nearest hundreds, I'm going to get an answer that I can reach by counting by hundreds. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, all the way up to 4,000. 4,100, 4,200, 4,300, 4,400, 4,500. Because I rounded to the nearest hundreds, my 4,523 rounded to 4,500. So 4,523 is only 23 away from a full 100, where you have to go a whole lot more to reach the next 100 of 4,600. That is why 4,523 rounds to 4,500. The same thing happens if you're working with the decimals. Now, the nearest tenth tells me I'm looking to round to the nearest place value of the tenths. The 7 has all the power. The 7 tells the 2 to do something. I look down at my chart. 7 is over here. It rounds up. It tells that 2 the place value number increases by 1. So if it increases by 1, the 2 becomes a 3, and the 7, it disappears. It becomes a 0. Except with a decimal, we don't need the 0 at the end because it's not a significant number at this point. So 6 27/100 to the nearest tenth is 6 3/10. Likewise, if we round to the nearest hundredth, tenth, hundredth, this is our place value. This has all the power. The 9 tells the 7 to do something. I look for the 9 on the chart. Whoop, there it is. 9 tells the 7 that the underlined number increases by 1. So the 7 becomes an 8. Everything else remains the same. And the 9 goes... It becomes a 0. Except again, we don't need a 0 at the end of a decimal. So rounding it to the nearest hundredth, the 7 becomes an 8. And our answer is 91 28/100. Keeping this chart in mind, I have 3 problems I'd like you to work on your own. First, round to the nearest tens. You may pause this video to work on it and start it again when you're finished. The next problem is round to the nearest tenths. Pause the video, work it out, resume when you are finished. The third problem, round to the nearest hundredths. This is a little bit of a challenge. This might be a little bit tricky, but that's okay. We'll work on it. Pause this video now and resume when you've finished. Okay, the first one, round to the nearest tens. We take a look, and 2 is our tens place value. The number to the right has all the power to control the 2. I take a look at the 6, and I consult the chart. 6 is right there on the roundup. The 6 is going to tell the 2 that you increase by 1. So the 2 becomes a 3. Everything else stays the same. Psst, and the 6 turns into a 0. It's done its job. So if I count by tens, I would reach 4,730. Did you get that right? Hope so. Let's try round to the nearest tenths. Even though there's a bunch of other numbers down here, we're worried about the number in the tenth spot, which is right here. The number to the right, the 7, has all the control over the 4. 7, I consult the chart. 7 right here says we're going to round up, so the underlying number increases by 1. The 4 increases by 1, becomes a 5. Everything else stays the same. And then that becomes a 0. Everything else becomes a 0. However, we only need to the 10th spot. These zeros are unnecessary. They're insignificant. I am not going to put them in my answer. And I have a number that's rounded to the nearest tenths. The tricky part might come here. And it's not because it's to the hundredths, but it's because of what the hundredths is. Here's our tenths. Here's our hundredths. I need to round to that place value. This 5 has all the power to tell the 9 what to do. 5, consult the chart, is right here. It tells the underlying number to increase by 1. So, if the 9 increases by 1, it becomes a 10. Carry the 1. It becomes a 1 here. This stays the same. This goes away, except I need to get rid of some zeros. This 0 is not significant. I'm going to get rid of that, but I'm not going to get rid of this 0. Does anybody know why? I need to round to the nearest hundredths. So my answer has to have a hundredths place value. This is one of the few times that we actually want a 0 after a decimal, because it's showing us that there is nothing in the hundredths position. 1.10 or 1 1/10 is the answer. These are the last 3 we'll do together. Please round 46,499 to the nearest thousand. Pause the video, work it out. The next one, round to the nearest hundredth. 2,713 to the nearest thousandth. Pause the video, work it out. The last one, round to the nearest tenth. 84 and 29 thousandths. Pause the video, work it out. Answer time. If we're rounding to the nearest 1,000, underline the 1,000 place value. 4 tells the 6 what to do. Consult the chart. If I look here, I find the 4 on the round down side. 4 is going to tell the 6 to stay the same. Don't change. So, the 6 is not going to change. This 4, however, blanks out, and everything behind it turns to zeros. So, if I'm counting by thousands, I will reach 46,000. And 46,499 is just one away from that halfway mark. It's still in the 400s. If I added 1 to 499, I'd get 500. And then this would be a 5. And if that's a 5, we're actually rounding up. But it's still in the 4s. So we're rounding down. And down stays the same. Okay. Over here, round to the nearest hundredth. No, not hundredth. Thousandth. 10th, 100th, thousandths. That's the line. That's the important one. But this one tells the 1 what to do. Consult the chart. 3 is right here. It's on the round down. It tells the 1, stay the same. Okay, so 1 stays the same. Everything else stays the same. The 3 becomes a 0. Except we don't need it. We only need to go up to the 1,000th place. So my answer is 271 thousandths. The last one, round to the nearest 10th. There's our 10th. 2 tells our 0 what to do. Consult the chart. 2 says round down, and it tells the 0, stay the same. Okay. If the 0 stays the same, everything else over here stays the same. Everything else goes away, except we don't need decimals. We don't need zeros at the end of decimals, except since we're rounding to the 10th spot, we have to have a digit in the 10th spot. We're showing that there are 0 tenths. How did you do? 5th level, your assignment will be to copy the following 20 problems into your math composition notebook or something else that you can keep a hold of. The first, round to the nearest tens. I'm going to scroll down. Please pause the video so that you can copy what needs to be rounded to for 1 through 5. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. You can rewind, go back, anything that you missed, pause the video, and copy. All of those are rounding to the nearest tens. The next we're rounding to the nearest hundreds. Number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. Next, round to the nearest tenths. Number 11, number 12, number 13, number 14, and number 15. And the last set of 5, round to the nearest hundredths. Number 16, number 17, number 18, number 19, and number 20. You can write them in any form as long as you have these in your math composition notebook or whatever you're using as a math composition notebook, and you have answers. Please check Google Classroom on Friday after this is done, and I will have posted an answer video showing you what the answers to these 20 problems are. Again, I know some of you have just done this, but we are leading up to something where this skill is important, and some of you could really use some practice on it. This is our first lesson, and if you have any questions, if you are in Monarch, please send a personal message to Fran and ask her any questions that you may have over this material. If you are in Karner Blue, please send your personal messages to me, and I will respond to them as quickly as possible. So, this is a little bit a different way to have a lesson, but we'll get through it, and hopefully it's not so bad. And we'll see you on Friday. Enjoy your time at home. Bye.